Hey everybody, it's Steve with Sky194 and appreciate you taking the time out of your day to visit and check out my video. And we're here at Nurburgring with the BMW M6 GT3 car. And lately, I've been working on a setup for this car for the last few weeks, just a little here, a little there when I have time, a little extra time. And I did a shorter hot stint this time just because I haven't had don't have the time to do the 30 minutes. But I've been working on again this setup for a while, and the BMW to me, to put it in kind of like a context or as example, is kind of like to me is like a big German Shepherd, but it thinks it's a Dachshund. I mean, it thinks it's a little lapdog because it's a big car, but it thinks it's a little car. And if you basically setting it up, you almost got to act that way because even though the car is really good for straight line speed and things like that, you really got to set it up for the handling and things like that, and that's when you'll get the benefit out of the car, especially on a track like this. Even other tracks, it just seems like if you set it up more of a handling car, it seems to respond, and it still has good straightaway speed. But if it makes it up, it holds its own in all the other places also. So let's just do a couple laps. And then, of course, I'll go over the setup. And, of course, a link of the setup will be in the description. And, of course, I have a PayPal link in the description also. And thank you to everybody that's contributed. It makes a big difference, and I really appreciate it. And so let's jump in the car. Braking zones are about the same, just maybe a little bit shorter than maybe a Porsche or something that's really killer on the brakes, or maybe an Aston Martin. This is just a little bit less, just a little bit earlier than normal. Here you just definitely want to be early, so you want to cut this so you can get a good angle right here. You get a good shot down the straightaway. Really need to use the throttle to try to help rotate the car. It really helps in time, especially at this corner. This next corner here is the best one. You want to get into first and start rotating. You can start getting on the gas and straighten it out, and then start already be accelerating. So you can kind of help the car turn that way. Goes through here really nice. Really goes through here a lot better than I thought it would, but it definitely does good at the Nurburgring. Just even through the chicane here, it handles really good for a bigger car. And that was a 155.67. Of course, I still had started with 80 liters, so it's got 66 on it now. But of course, I started with 80 liters. So let's go to the last lap really quick. And I also could have been a little more aggressive with the brake bias, but since it was a shorter stint, I didn't want to do that. I just turned it down a teeny bit, so not much. And that does help also with the braking and rotating the car a little bit. But I didn't want to get too aggressive since it was just a 15-minute hot stint. But a lot of the times I look at any car, I look at it turning. How much are the wheels? Do they look like they're turning a lot when the car is turning, or does it look like it's just turning a little bit and the car's turning? So that tells you a lot if it's understeering or not. It tells you how good it's rotating. You don't just look like you don't have to turn too much and the car just turns. And that's what I really like that. Because you're not scrubbing speed that way. still think it's a good looking, for a bigger car, I still think it's a really good looking car. Of course, the one thing, like I said, compared to some other cars, is you definitely get the stability that a lot of the other cars don't have. Especially even going through the chicane, changing directions, those kinds of things. And that was a 156.10, so that's only about, what, not even 4/10, less than about 3.5 tenths of a second, so that's not real bad. So let's go ahead and go over the timetables. I had one out, but it was just that barely out, so it really didn't, time-wise, it's still about the same. But I had some higher 55s. Probably could have been some 55s here at the end, other than maybe not being as aggressive. Another 55.9, something there, which I still think that's really good for having, race fuel load. I don't think that's that bad. In my opinion. Now, with lower fuel, I was running low 55s. So if you went to qualify, you could probably run a pretty, like a 55 teen or 20, something like that. If you were running basically a hot lap, you could probably run pretty low. Maybe better driver, you can get into 54s. So I don't think, that's not that bad. That's decent. So again, better than I really thought. That the BMW, is really not as forte. I think it's better when the tires warm up. I think it starts to work a little bit better. The first lap is a little, let's go back and look at that. The first lap was a little off. And again, it's just because the tires, when they're till they come up to temperature, it seems like the BMW, it just doesn't want to work as well. I've noticed, compared to some other cars that still work decent when the tires are cold. So let's go over to setup. Got 25.8 left front, 26.2 left rear, 26.4 right front, and actually it'd be 26.3 right front and right rear. It was running a teeny bit hot on the right front. And also the temperatures, you can see it's 26. So actually the temperature is a little hotter than what I normally do, so that's another thing. It's just maybe a degree or two hotter, but not that big a difference, but still. I probably gain a little bit of time. But I've run some pretty consistent mid-55s with a race fuel load. Let's see, the tow is a negative 0.05 in the front, with the camber at negative 3.3 in the left front and negative 3.4 on the right front, and a caster at 11.1. And the tow on the rear is 0.04, with the camber at negative 3.1 on the left rear and negative 3.2 on the right rear. Electronics are 2 and 2. 80 liters with the fuel, and it had light graining on the front. Well, I'm not too concerned with that. The wear is really good. That's one of the great things about the BMW. It seems like it has the great wear as far as front to rear. I mean, that's dead. I mean, that's exactly the same right there. And this one's not far behind, so that's really good because that'll show that it won't change. I mean, it'll pretty much, you might slide a little of this or that, but it's not going to understeer or oversteer any direction. So that's good. 6 on the anti-roll bar, 57.1 on the brake bias, steering ratio turned all the way down. The springs in the front are 176,000 with a bump stop rate of 1,000 and a bump stop range of 5. And on the rear, the springs are 136,000 with a bump stop rate of 700 and a bump stop range of 15. Anti-roll bar is 3 and the preload on the diff is 50. Shocks are 18, 13, 24, and 23 on the front, and 16, 12, 20, and 22 on the rear. Aero got 53 on the front, 59 on the rear with a 5 rear wing and a 3 and a 2 and a brake ducts. And the front aero variation is a negative 1.1. So that is the setup for this BMW M6. And I sure hope you enjoyed the video, and I sure hope you try the setup and it works really good for you. And I hope you give me a like and subscribe. And all that stuff is, I really appreciate the support, because that's all support, just like watching the video support. I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you to everybody, because it helps with all that YouTube stuff. and so we can grow and other people find out about the channel. So I appreciate it, and I hope you all come back and enjoy, or come back and visit again really soon. Y'all take care. See ya.